You guys have 5 minutes until you I thought we were doing 10 minutes. Roscoe? Roscoe, what's happening?
Does the meetup organizer need to be present for the meet to run?
Don't know.
Okay, otherwise, we'll just sign in with my personal account.
Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Knysna. Welcome to the first virtual Rotary Knysna Cycle Tour, our inaugural event. We're all very excited. Lots of work done. Ladies and gents, before we get going, I'm just going to tell you some formalities from our sponsors. So our sponsors are welcoming you, ladies and gents, to the first virtual Rotary Cycle Tour brought to you by the Knysna Speed Festival and our event partners. Our partners, Nutritech, Seattle Coffee, Knysna Hollow Country Estate, Knysna On, Absolute Motion, Spur Steak Ranches, Powerade, and Elite Marquees. Huge thanks to these guys. Without our support and sponsorship from them, these events aren't possible. My name is Tony Cook, and with me in the studio this morning is Rob Hill. Morning, Rob. How you doing?
Morning, bud. How you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very well. So, ladies and gents, before we get going, we've got 1 minute 42 seconds to the start of the inaugural race. Just a little bit of history. This weekend would have marked the 33rd running of the Knysna Cycle Tour. But thanks to COVID-19, we've had to arrange our first ever virtual Knysna Cycle Tour. So this is enormously good fun for all of us here, a first time doing this. So we've had lots of fun. The cycle tour is actually traditionally the opening event of the Knysna Oyster Festival, which usually takes place during the South African winter school holidays and consists of both a mountain bike and a road bike event. So the first Knysna Rotary Cycle Tour took place way back in 1987. I think I was doing my national service. I was in Richards Bay in the Navy. Great fun. It was a project of the Knysna Rotary Club aimed at attracting visitors to picturesque Knysna to basically stimulate the local economy during the slow winter month of July. And over the past 32 years, the Knysna Cycle Tour has developed into one of the biggest and most popular events on the national and regional winter cycling calendar, attracting anything between 4,000 and 6,000 people to Knysna annually. It's a huge boost for our local economy. We trust that you'll all enjoy this virtual event from your homes, and we hope to see you at the actual event next year in Knysna. So we've got about 28 seconds to go before the actual start of the race. Morning, Rob. How are you feeling? You've actually done this ride before this week, haven't you?
I have indeed. We did a bit of a mock-up on Wednesday.
And I know that you potentially did one of your fastest rides. It might not have been a personal best, but I did see some sweat appearing on your brow there on Wednesday.
Racing this loop is tough, Tony. It's there's a nice long down and a nice long up, and somewhere in between there's a little bit of a leg snapper. So it's a good session.
It's a good session. So for those of you watching from home, we've just started the virtual Knysna Rotary Cycle Tour. This is an inaugural event. The flowers are blooming. The windmills are churning. Rob, I'm going to ask you to explain to our viewers and spectators out there who don't know what ZWIFT is and haven't seen this before. The guys riding and their friends and family obviously know what's going on. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about what they're seeing on the screen? What are they looking at the top left in that blue block?
Okay, so the top left in the blue block is the actual power that the person is putting out, their cadence or RPM, revs per minute, and then their heart rate. So the actual power is the power that is theoretically being transferred through their smart trainer to propel the bike forward. The modern sort of way of training is very much power orientated, whereas it used to be a heart rate. So now we've got power, which is a much more accurate way of doing things.
Yeah, I remember when I was riding, huge advances in training was if you used a heart rate, you were right up there with technology.
Now heart rate is just a good add-on to power training. Power training is the way to go.
So at the moment, for example, we're watching Mr. Menzies, and his heart rate is currently sitting at 148 beats per minute. He's got 68.7 revs per minute, pushing 325 watts. Is he taking it easy? Is he just chilling? Is he working quite hard? What's happening there? What can you tell the viewers what they're looking at?
Okay, so he's pushing around about 300 watts. Now, depending on his weight, so he's currently pushing out about 4.5, 4.4 watts per kilogram. So everything in ZWIFT and the real world is based on power to weight ratio. When you're going downhill, your weight plays in your favor. When you're going uphill, the heavier you are, the harder it is, and therefore the more wattage you need to push out. But nobody.
So it's hugely realistic.
Yes, very much so.
So it's very realistic. So 300 watts, you're putting in some effort. You're sweating.
Yeah, you work.
So what we're going to do, ladies and gents, we've got a couple of people that we can actually interview during the ride, and you'll be able to. We're going to let them get going for 15 or 20 minutes or 10 minutes, or we'll decide as we go. But you're actually going to be able to see them training on their bikes live. We'll see the sweat. pouring off their brow. We'll see that they're working quite hard. A couple of the guys that we are going to be interviewing today are going to theoretically do quite well in the race. It's hard work. This is real riding. The only difference between this and actual perceived effort is you're not on the top.
Correct, but the ZWIFT has actually taken that into account as well. So they built in algorithms to adjust your rolling resistance according to the bike that you're riding. So you can see the guy that we've got on screen at the moment, Mr. Duplessis, he's riding a road bike, whereas all the other guys are on mountain bikes. Now, when you're on gravel in ZWIFT, your rolling resistance is less on a mountain bike than it is on a road bike, as it would be out in the normal world. So the advantage here is to be on a mountain bike. Mountain bike event, of course.
So just a shot in the dark. If somebody decided to ride a road bike on today's mountain bike race, if they thought it would be a little bit faster, they're actually going to be at a disadvantage. Correct. Okay. So all those roadies out there who are riding road bikes today, bad idea. Rob, so I've just got a couple of stats here to let the viewers know what's happening. Today is the long ride. We've got 3 laps. It's going to be roughly 30 Ks. We've got a 5.7 kilometer lead in, which is theoretically a neutral zone, but at 300 odd watts, the Oaks aren't riding that neutrally.
I've done a number of races in ZWIFT, and there's a number of races that build the neutral zone into it. There is no such thing, not in ZWIFT.
Okay, so they're still caning it a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's a 5.7K lead in, and then they're going to do 3 laps of roughly 7.1 Ks per lap, giving us a 30K total ride, which we're estimating will take somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour, depending on how much effort they're putting in today.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right, yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gents, Mr. Hill over here on my right, we watched him in our test ride on Wednesday. His first lap he did in 15 minutes and 10 seconds. He was caning it, and then his second lap he did in 14 minutes and 40. Now, I was watching you, Rob. You were sweating buckets. That's 15 minutes for a lap, or 14 minutes for anything under 15 minutes per lap is going.
Yeah, I think you're working quite hard for those kind of times. But you must also remember, and this is another algorithm that's being built into ZWIFT, is that if you are riding on your own in ZWIFT, then it's going to be harder work. So these guys have got a four-person breakaway. They're going to be working together, and that way their average speed is going to increase, and therefore their time per lap is going to be better. If you're out on your own, like I was to a greater or lesser degree on Wednesday for my second lap, you're then riding on your own. You get no benefit from slipstreaming. So in this group, when the guys are sitting on wheels, they are actually getting up to a 30% benefit on slipstream.
So correct me if I'm wrong. What you're telling me is on ZWIFT in a virtual race like this on the screen, these guys are training at home, but they are on screen getting the 100% the slipstreaming effect on their bikes.
Correct. They have built drafting into ZWIFT, so that's why it is much faster as a group.
That is phenomenal. Did anyone else see the sloth hanging off the vine across the road there? I've been called a sloth once or twice, due to my hyper energetic nature. I'm fine. So what are we looking at here? We 4.2 Ks in, 3.8 Ks into the ride at the moment. The guys are riding at 51 Ks an hour. That's flying. We happen to know there's a gentleman by the name of Neville Menzies who's blitzvinnig. One of our technicians, we're going to ask Ivan if he can zoom up to the top of that block on the right there. Are we able to do that just to see who's in the lead group at the moment? Okay, so there's Neville, and in front of him is Mr. Duplessis. We'll have a look at the list and find out is that Eugene? Okay, Eugene Duplessis and Mr. McDonald. Neville, we know. Mr. Mappin, we'll find his actual first name so we can refer to him on a first name basis. We've got a couple of Ks to go before the lead-in finishes, and then they're going to start their 3 laps. But you can see the guys are actually giving it horns. Should we cross over for the viewers to one of our riders that we've got in? Should we cross over to Eugene? Eugene Duplessis is actually on his bike. Emma, one of our technicians, will let us know when Eugene is ready. Eugene, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Morning. You look like you're working quite hard there, Eugene. Thanks for joining us. Very much appreciated. I know I know it's quite hard to talk while you're riding, so I'm going to ask you to, tell us about your childhood. Nothing, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just chat away.
Hey, childhood. That's many, many moons ago. Now I'm feeling like a little child.
You look like you're working quite hard,
fine.
Eugene. You've got a fan above you blowing your head. We're quite chilly in here. We've got our buffs and jerseys on. Are you building up a sweat there? What's your current heart rate?
I'm standing
150 beats per minute. What is that as a percentage of your max? How hard are you working?
I'm running at about 80%. My max is 172. So I've got a low ticker.
So neutral zone, taking it easy, 5 point something lead in is making you work at near to threshold intensity on his heart rate. Is that right, Rob?
Yeah, that would be about right. An interesting thing, and this is something you never ask a cyclist, is what is your FTP? So threshold in power would be his FTP, but we don't ask cyclists that. It's a very, very private thing.
I think we should ask Eugene, what's your FTP? We want to know. And the viewers want to know, are we looking at a manier or... Sorry, I interrupted you. What's your FTP?
I think I'll disclose that at the end of the race.
Good man. Well said.
Might just use that one.
So I'm going to take a flyer and say, Eugene, you've got a couple of bikes hanging on the wall. There's a whole pile of kit nicely hung on the wall behind you. That tells me that you're fairly serious about the sport, Eugene. You're obviously a regular cyclist. Do you compete on the road? Do you compete on mountain bikes? What is your normal activity?
I do a bit of mountain biking, a lot of road racing. I've been in cycling for 22 years, but this trainer riding is a level on its own. I've been doing this year since lockdown, and it's hard, man. It's hard.
Well, you're certainly looking lean and mean, like what we call in the old days a racing snake. I've been trying for close to 40 years to get thighs that look like that, because apparently I don't have any calves either. Rob's actually, he trains me. He kills me once a week to try and get me fit and strong so that my wife will love me forever. And I still haven't got any calves. Why is that, Rob?
I'm not sure whether it's because your wife's not doing her job or whether I'm not doing
my
mine.
wives. I only have one. You mean wife? You said wives. Wife. Claudia's listening. She likes you. She doesn't like you anymore. My wife refers to Rob Hill as Roberto, so we should refer to him as Roberto for the rest of the morning.
Okay, I'm so looking forward to that.
Eugene, we're going to let you go so that the viewers can let you rest for a little bit. Thanks for joining us. If you don't mind, we are going to interview again a little bit later. And we're going to pan over to Mr. Ryan Habib, who's a teacher at one of our local schools. Eugene, thanks for joining us. We're going to chat to you again later.
Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. So we're watching Ryan Habib. Emma, do we have Ryan on? We don't have him on interview, but we're watching him. Ryan, if he can hear us. So what you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan actually chose that avatar. So he chose the bike. He chose the color of his socks, his shoes, his pants, his shirt. And I see he's sporting he doesn't have a beard in real life, does he? No, he doesn't. Hey, Ryan, when you watch this afterwards or you're watching ZWIFT now, we love your beard. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Rob, tell us what Ryan's doing at the moment.
Okay, so Ryan's sitting at about 270, 280 watts. So knowing Ryan quite well, I would put that probably in at about sort of 4 watts per kilogram. He hasn't got his heart rate on.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
For the viewers out there, what does 4 watts per kilogram mean? What does that mean?
Okay, so just to make it nice and easy, if somebody weighs 100 kilograms and they put out 400 watts, they are doing 4 watts per kilogram. Okay, so you divide it into the weight, your watts into your weight. And that's when you come out at a 4 watts per kilogram. Now,
so 4 watts per kilogram is he working quite hard there?
Yeah, 4 watts per kilogram.
That's a good go.
So when he's going downhill, his weight and the amount of power that he puts in will be of most relevance. When he's going on the flats, the weight has a participating factor, but your watts makes the most difference. When you are going uphill, your weight plays most to your advantage, and then your watts obviously will take a part as well.
So, confirm if I'm hearing you right. If you're a big guy, or you're a small guy, your watts per kilogram is what counts. So there's no real disadvantage or advantage to being smaller or bigger in the virtual world. Is that correct?
No, not at all. There's a huge advantage. So for instance, if we're going up a hill, you and I riding together, you weigh 50 kilograms, I weigh 80 kilograms. Okay. In order for
so actually I'm 83 and Rob's 94. So sorry, you think?
In order for us to ride at the same speed, I would have to put out more wattage than you.
Okay.
In order to get the same watts per kilogram.
So as in the real world, if you're a big guy going uphill on ZWIFT, you're gonna have to put in more effort.
Exactly.
So the
real world, absolutely.
Okay, so the lightweight racing snakes, the Alberto Contadors, etc., the Chris Froomes are going to, in the real world and on ZWIFT, they're still going to be the climbers, and you're going to have the climbers and the sprinters and what have you.
The one big difference where where ZWIFT comes in, is that when you're in the real world, when you go downhill, you tend to freewheel a lot, you tend to rest a lot. When you're on the flats, you're in the group, you tend to tap off a bit. In ZWIFT, you're literally putting out power all the time. When you're going downhill, they're still putting out 300 watts. When you're going uphill, we're going up to 400 watts. So in ZWIFT, it tends to be a much more intensive. That's why you'll find that the races are a lot shorter, because they're putting out much more power as a whole, as a sort of a general. Your average power is a lot higher than it would be in the same sort of race out in the real world.
Okay, so in the real world, you know, we go for a lazy Sunday morning ride. We're going to go do 30 Ks. That's pretty easy. I mean, you can do a time trial 30 Ks and you'll be dead. But if the guys are going to ride 30 Ks on ZWIFT, they're going to suffer. It's hard.
I mean, if you have a look, for instance, there's a massive uptake during our lockdown period where worldwide the time trialists, the Ironman athletes, that kind of thing, are really taking to ZWIFT because it's their kind of forte. It's consistent power. The more power you can put out consistently for a longer period of time, the more successful you're going to be in ZWIFT.
Okay. So I was just looking at the screen. We're watching Neville. He's pushing out spurts of 400 watts. This particular section on this bridge, is this a tough one?
Okay.
You've done this route.
Now. Okay, just at the end of this bridge, there's a nice little kick up. You'll see the gradient's going up to 8%.
529 watts.
Now,
that's huge.
Kicking. So this is that little leg snapper that I mentioned earlier. Okay. So there's a short sort of 50-meter stint where it's going up to 8% gradient. And that's when the guys, if they put in a bit of effort there, can make a couple of meters if somebody's sleeping.
Okay, so from what I saw there, from what I'm gathering, his watts went up. It was over 500 watts. So he got off the saddle and he gave it horns to drop the guy behind him. Is that correct?
This is it, yeah.
Who is behind him? Ivan, can we zoom up there and see who's behind Neville? We just want to have a look, see who's up there, who's up at the top. So correct me if I'm wrong. The viewers are watching the same thing as what we're watching up there, Ivan. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we'll there. So Mr. Duplessis, what's his second? He's obviously a strong rider. He's strong. Oh, that's Eugene. Okay, sorry. See, I need first names are good. So Eugene's right up there. We're gonna hook into him just now and hopefully not chat to him on the final sprint, because otherwise he'll have to talk. I think he can hear me, but we can't hear him. So Eugene, yeah, Eugene can definitely hear me. He's working hard. I'm watching him on the screen. We'll pull him up on the screen again for our viewers and spectators out there live.
The guy that's keeping Eugene honest is a guy called Neville Menzies. He's one of the guys that was pointed to us beforehand, and he was one of the ones to watch. So clearly that was bang on. And Eugene and Neville are going to keep this race going nicely now.
So one thing I want to point out to the viewers, in the real world, when you're running cycling, one of the most beautiful terms I've heard put out there is being chicked. In other words, I'm a rough, tough man, I'm so strong, I'm so cool, I'm so fast, and your wife runs past you. Or another wonderful, fit, strong lady, that's called being chicked. So in the race today, we have a local Knysna lady called Marika Freken, who's strong like a lion. If she's listening, if Emma's listening, we'd like to get her online, and let's have a quick chat to her. So she's riding with the boys today, and I can virtually guarantee that a few guys out there this morning are going to get checked.
I would think that's very true. Marika is exceptionally strong on the road.
Okay, so as soon as we've got Marika up on the screen and she talks to me and says hello, then I'll know she's there, and we'll interview her.
Yes, Tony.
There she is. Morning, Marika. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Check that smile, ladies and gentlemen. Marika, have you got some painkillers to dish out to the boys today, because you're going to hurt them?
Yes, but I'll save it for the third lap.
You save it for the third lap. Are you a regular Zwifter? How long have you been Zwifting?
I would say we've been Zwifting more frequently since lockdown, because we were kind indoors.
So were you a Zwifter before lockdown, or is this a recent activity for you?
But an inactive one. We prefer outdoors.
Indeed, outdoors is where we want to be, where we all want to be. I'm going to ask Ivan to hook up Marika on the big screen so we can see where she is and what her watts are doing and her heart rate and all that. Okay, so Marika, you're doing 250 watts. Your heart rate's 167. I know personally that your maximum heart rate is about 397. So, okay, 166 odd beats per minute. How hard are you working? Let the viewers know.
About 80% effort.
So that's taking it easy for you.
Not too easy.
So if we look at Zwifters nearby on the screen, ladies and gents, that's the leaders on the screen. But Marika's doing really well. She's dishing out some pain. Marika, have you got some tissues that I can maybe give to the boys that are crying at home?
Sorry, they're on their own.
Are they on their own? Marika, thanks for joining us. If I may, I'm going to call on you a little bit later because I can see the sweat is starting to appear on the brow over there.
Thank you.
And I know I can talk the hind leg off a donkey, but I know it's quite difficult to chat while you're cycling. You've met Rob before, haven't you?
Yes,
In fact, you know each other well. How do you guys know each other?
Marika's also a trainer in Knysna. She trains a lot of the young up-and-coming kids in power training. And she and I used to work together quite a lot before lockdown and that sort of stuff. She used to bring some people through to my studio and get them to do some stuff in the studio. Tony, I'm just going to pull you away for that for 2 secs.
Okay.
The guys are going to be crossing the start-finish line in a couple of secs for the first time. Okay, so this is the first lap finish.
So, ladies and gents, I'm going to let Rob talk you through it. Putting a good few watts in there. 500 watts is a huge effort. Rob, tell us what you see.
Okay, so this is the end of the first lap. There's 3 laps to go this morning. Now, the way that this finishes, it's actually designed beautifully for a good finish. If you are together as a group at this point, you've got about probably 150, 200 meters to go before the start-finish line. So on the final lap, if you go through this point and you're together, it's a sprint finish. There's a slight undulation, and it's quite a tough sprint finish. This is the start finish.
That arch that the guys are looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, that's your start finish, is that correct?
Yeah. So now they've got 2 more laps to go. So the ideal, if you're not a sprinter, the only way that you're going to win this race is to get away before that point.
Okay, so for example, Eugene and Neville, I don't know Neville. I know he's a super strong rider, but I've never met him. Eugene, we know. These guys are doing 12:26 and 12:29 on their first lap. That's flying. Hey, you put in a huge effort on Wednesday in our cycle test, and you did 14 minutes 40 for your second lap, and you were bleeding. I saw actual blood and ooze coming out of your nose, eyeballs, and ears, and some out of your canines. That 12 minutes is flying.
12 minutes is fast. So 12 minutes is really fast. But then you've also got to look at it in terms of the fact that, I mean, these guys are strong. They've been averaging sort of 300 watts plus right the way through the whole loop. But then they also, for pretty much the first half of their first lap, they were in a group. So they were working together as a group. So that then plays again into the live streaming side of things. And then both Neil and Neville were working together to kind of complete the second half of the lap. So they are working together to increase their average speed.
Okay, so we're watching Mr. G Mappin over there. He was pushing 500 watts. That's huge. Why was he working so hard there for that brief moment in time?
Well, he's looking to catch up to the guy in front of him so that he can get that benefit of slipstreaming. You want to try and work together with people. If you're working on your own, there's no ways you're going to catch the guys in front of you. If you work as a group, then you're going to be able to catch the guys in front of you and possibly in for a competitive edge.
So he could see Mr. McDonald and Mr. Kearns up ahead, and he was trying to catch them just like in real life. And he's now streaming. I remember my dad teaching me all about streaming. I think I did my first 100K bike ride with him when I was 12 years old or something. And I didn't know anything. And I remember my dad saying, "We've got to catch those guys." And that's when I learned to slipstream, and it's a huge beneficial.
Absolutely, yeah. And in ZWIFT, obviously it does depend on how many people are there, but you can get up to 30% advantage by sitting behind somebody on the wheel. And if you're in a big group and you're sitting behind, you'll get that full 30%.
So while we're chatting and watching these guys, some of our viewers out there might be thinking, who are Tony and who's Rob? What do you guys do? How are you involved in cycling? I personally, I've been involved in the Knysna Cycle Tour for quite a long time. I competed in about 10 of them. The first road bike, the first mountain bike ride, I did about 10 in a row, and when they decided to split them into the mountain bike ride on the Saturday, the road bike on the Sunday. I know Stuart Lively, who we're going to interview later, we all used to enter both events and just see who had the fastest time. I mean, we weren't ever going to win or do it really well, but we were reasonable cyclists. And then for the last sort of 10 years until last year, I was involved with Dr. Evil, Mr. Leon Evans, and we did the route management for the actual Knysna Cycle Tour. So we were involved in setting up the course and clearing it and marking all the routes, and we were up at 4 o'clock in the morning on race day. It was really exciting, and it was really nice to see all the riders. How have you been involved in the cycle tour?
Sorry, Tony, could you repeat that?
How have you been involved in the Knysna Cycle Tour in the past? Have you actually ridden? Well, I know you have.
Yeah, no, I've ridden the cycle tour quite a lot. In terms of the organization and being part of organizing it, this is the first time that I've been actually a part of that. I've been involved with ZWIFT for quite a long time. I started beta testing it. So from the ZWIFT side, from the virtual side, I'm quite au fait with that, and this is why I was quite excited, to work with this and to see if we could get something going. Just as a bit of a sideline, Tony, these two ladies that we're watching at the moment, this is Marika Freakin, and this is the first two ladies that are in the race. And I think these girls are putting out some impressive wattage. I mean, Marika at the moment is putting out 200 watts, and bearing in mind that we're still in the first loop, these girls are going pretty good, eh?
Who's the other lady that's riding with Marika?
Just going to get her first name now.
They're on road bikes, I see. So
is the one that's on road bike? Yeah.
Who's on the road bike? We're just looking for a name.
Marika's on a mountain bike.
So Marika's ZWIFT name is A Knysna. Okay, so for all of those spectators watching out there,
Marika's on the road bike.
Is Marika on the road bike?
Yes.
So when it says A Knysna on the screen, that is her profile on ZWIFT. In case you're wondering, her name is not A Knysna. Or is she A Knysna?
Well, she is a Knysna person. Yeah,
she is a Knysna. She is a Knysna. So we're going to call them official A Knysna.
And then we have another. We were talking about Ryan Habib earlier.
Yes.
He's one of, as you stated, one of our local cyclists. He's one of those guys that does a lot of sneaky training. And then when you
stealth training, we call it, Rob. Yeah. Stealth training. When you arrive at the start line and everyone says, "How are you feeling?" You say, "Oh, I haven't done any training. I'm not fit at all. I'm in really bad condition."
And then blows you away. Yeah. Okay, so we've got Ryan Habib on the line now, and we can go and chat to him if you want.
Awesome. Ryan, can you hear us? If
yeah,
Ryan can hear us.
How's it, guys?
Morning.
Right.
Morning.
Nice to see you. What have you got on your head, Ryan?
Sweatband. Bringing the 80s
sweatband. Sheepers.
He's rocking the lockdown look.
Ryan, you're looking, if you're looking incredibly handsome, fit and strong and lean and mean for those viewers out there. Welcome to the virtual Knysna Cycle Tour. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Thanks, Tony.
What do you tell?
Well, Tony, I secret train a lot, so But I'm just a regular maths teacher at a local school here, and just try to keep up with the other cyclists, really.
I happen to know there's nothing regular about being a math teacher, because I try and do sums every day to run my business, and teaching maths is good. How does it affect you on the bike? Do you have to think about your watts and Ks? And
Yeah, I tend to be a bit more numbers orientated than some of the other oaks, which sometimes gets in my head. But yeah, so I'm not.
I just wanted to put it out there that my foot's still sore from kicking your butt the last time I saw you when you were running. Just putting it. I really shouldn't abuse our riders and our plants. So how are you feeling at the moment, Ryan? I see you pushing 320, 334 watts. You look like you're working really hard.
This is probably like 110% of me, and I'm just trying to get one good lap in so that I can try compete.
Can you see the guys in front of you? Some of how far ahead of the leaders of it? Is there any way we can tell that?
I got a Jay DeVilliers who's 13 seconds, K Stevens 47, G Mappin 110. Okay. So I don't know how far ahead they are. So
I think Eugene and Neville are about 2 minutes up the road in front of you.
Woo. So
yeah, they're flying. They're putting in a huge effort. I know you're strong on a bike. You're fit and fast. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a normal, really fit racing snake. He's putting in huge watts. He's a fit, healthy guy, and he's being dealt a little bit of pain by Neville and Eugene. Is that right, Rob?
Yeah, very definitely. Ryan, since we've been talking to him, Ryan's been putting out between 4.5 and 5 watts per kilogram, which is some real effort. That's some real good going. And clearly he's not talking freely, so he's going quite good. And if you compare it, so Menzies, who's in the lead, he's pushing out sort of between 3.5 and 4.5 watts per kilogram. So Ryan is actually pushing out more. So if Ryan can sustain this effort, there is every chance that he could reel him in. But he's going to have to go pretty hard for pretty long.
So here's a pretty real question for you, Ryan. Rob's saying if you want to reel them in, you're working your butt off and you're going to have to sustain this effort. What did you have for breakfast? What's your plan? Do you have a big breakfast, a small breakfast? Do you eat like 500 eggs and a bowl of cereal 2 hours before? Or how serious are you taking?
That's a great question, Tony. I actually thought I just had to do 1 7K loop to make it work. And I was quickly off the chute gate that that's not how the race is going today. so I had a banana and a coffee, hoping for the best.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had a banana and a coffee this morning myself, because, you know, talking is exhausting. Ryan,
I'm not sure if it's the talking or the riding, but I'm feeling exhausted.
Yeah, Ryan, we know you're putting in a huge effort to catch the leaders. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate letting the whole world watch you sit on your trainer. You might have a few extra female fans out there after today. We're going to call on you again a little bit later. Thanks for joining us. Give it horns, keep at it, and good luck. Good luck, ride hard.
Thanks, Tony.
Lekker. Okay, Rob, who are we watching on screen? What's happening in the race?
Okay, that's Marika Freken. We were watching the two ladies. That's Marika Freken and then Ms. Khan. And Marika at the moment is dropping her. So she's pushing out 3.1 watts per kilogram. And she's keeping it fairly consistent going up this hill. So she's put a little bit of distance in. She's got 4 seconds on her closest rival. And this is actually a good place to get away. So she's going up second round up the hill. And once she gets to the top, if she's got a bit of a gap, she should be able to maintain it.
So if I'm reading the screen correctly, up at the top there, they're 15.9 Ks into the ride. Is that correct? So we're roughly halfway through the ride at the moment. So if you've paced yourself correctly, you should still be feeling good. You should still have quite a lot of warmer left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is about the pacing, as with any race. But I think Marika is well capable of doing the kind of power that she's doing now for the rest of this race. And if she manages to maintain, I mean, she's up to 6 seconds lead now over her rival. And yeah, I think she'll put a decent gap in on this hill. And then if she can maintain that, then she should be able to stay away.
Do we know where Marika is in the field? Is there any way we're not sure that, okay, there's too many rides. But we did see from a little bit earlier that she's roughly sort of halfway midfield, somewhere around there. Definitely kicking some butt. There's a few guys out there being chicked. Okay, so Neville is flying. Now that the guys are doing laps, so 12:26 was his first lap. Eugene 12:29 on his first lap. They're flying. How far away are they from? What are we looking at there?
Okay, so now Neville is going through the start-finish line on the second lap. Okay. So he's going to be doing, he's completing a second lap. This is now the run into the second lap, 200 or 300 meters from the start finish. He's managed to put 1 minute and 6 seconds into Eugene, pretty much on that lap. So essentially, Eugene, if he has any chance of kind of getting to the front of this, he's going to have to put in some real effort. But I mean, if you have a look now, Neville is pushing out 470 watts coming across the start finish line. So I mean, Neville's in it to win it. He's getting.
Neville's in it to win it. Yeah. Is he a sponsored rider? Does anybody know what he does from a riding point of view? Because he's clearly a very strong rider. Okay,
so I mean, a lot of the time in Zwift, I mean, depending on what you've done before, I mean, we can see at the end of his name he's got Eva Kuta, which means, there's obviously an affiliation there, but apparently he trains sort of, once or twice a day on Zwift. And he's, I mean, if you spend time in Zwift, it's very serious. He also does a lot of running. So yeah, I mean, he's a serious athlete. Just sort of as an indication of what Zwift can do for you, we all know Ashley Moorman-Pasio, who's one of the top riders in South Africa. She's definitely the top female rider in South Africa. And she's at last count, she was 8th in the world as female cyclist.
She does a lot of riding on Zwift, doesn't she?
Yes, but she didn't used to. She kind of didn't really subscribe to it initially, and then when lockdown came in, she did lockdown in Spain. She's got a residence in Spain, just sort of down the beaten track from a couple of really big clients. And she did lockdown in there, and then she embraced Zwift huge, and she became incredibly successful at it. And when they did the Tour for All in Zwift, which is a multi-day tour within Zwift.
Tour for All?
Tour for All,
Tour for All. As in everybody?
Everybody can take part, but they also had then, the one that she took part in was an elite invitational. So they invited a bunch of elite cyclists, of which she was one, and they rode for different charity groups, so under the banner of different charity groups. And she won 3 out of the 5 stages in that tour. And then when lockdown finished in Spain, where she was, she decided, kind of let me see where my fitness is. She went out and attacked one of the local mountains that she had done before. And when I say mountains, it's not, these are proper mountains. These are alpine mountains, yeah. Okay. And she went and had a go at it, and she knocked 3.5 minutes off her best time. And that's just from training in Zwift.
So she's putting out some pain there on the bike, and Zwift helped her huge.
Yeah, she's looking really good at the moment. She's looking very strong.
It's actually a really interesting thing. I was chatting to my dad last night. My dad was a very enthusiastic cyclist back in the day. If anybody ever remembers the old Cresta Wheelers, it started in our back garden. Actually, with just a bunch of guys riding the roads in Joburg, and the amount of riders got too big, and there were too many, so they started meeting at the Cresta car park. And I think, if I'm not correct, that's pretty much how it started. And I remember him sitting on his rollers yesterday. He used to ride on his rollers, and his trainer, he had a Wiener. It was a beautiful bike, and he used to always wear Dylan Huth cycling jerseys. And I was telling him last night about Zwift and the different trainers and how the technology is involved, and he was completely blown away. He's 78 years old. The guys are coming up to that picker now. Yeah.
Okay, so just an interesting one now. We're watching Marika Vreeken again, and she's closing in nicely on Kunde Koch. So Kunde Koch, this big gent next to her that she's just passed, she's now chicked him, as you beautifully called earlier. So now if we watched her earlier, she lost time to the lady that she had been trying to put time in on the hill. So Ms. Khan, who's now quite close up behind her, she once fell to 6 seconds behind her. Now she's quite close again. She did get herself up to 2 minutes, but now on that little kicker, Marika has now put in a bit of effort, and she's opened the gap back up to 7 seconds. So this is the way Zwift goes, like it does in a real race. It kind of yo-yos according to the terrain.
So this route that we've chosen for our meet, it's called the Jungle Loop, Watopia Jungle Route.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the route compared to other routes in Zwift? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it long, short?
Okay, so the evolution of Zwift has been actually amazing. The original, the original sort of concept of Zwift was started by a guy in England, and he started the first one. I won't go back into the whole history of it, but he started with what's called the hilly loop. So that's the original loop in Zwift. So Zwift, the Watopia was
inventive name, the hilly.
Back then it was just essential. Yeah, really sort of started to get into it. And then slowly but surely, Watopia, which is the map that we're looking at now, expanded into a bunch of different routes. So each route was to sort of attain something different in terms of its goals. So we've got like Road to Sky, which is almost an exact replica of Alpe d'Huez, and that's a monster of a climb. This jungle loop that we're looking at now goes through a Mayan ruins. As you can see as we're going along, there's a Mayan bridge. It goes through some caves. There's some Mayan ruins on the side and that kind of thing. It was just a bit of inventiveness and just a bit of interest sort of to gain it. The route itself in terms of terrain.
I actually have I can show the guys, that's the jungle loop. That's the route profile. So it's a sort of long, gentle climb and then a long, gentle descent.
Correct. Yeah, your maximum ascent on this is 9%, which is over that little bridge. But the rest of it is fairly gentle and fairly undulating. And when you come down the other side, but now this is where the interesting
Can I interrupt you quickly?
Sure.
A lot of the guys out there may or may not know 9% on a climb. Is that quite steep?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. So if we compare, people have come to Knysna. This is the Knysna Oyster Festival ride.
Let's give them something to compare to if they're going up Samola Hill.
If you're going up Samola maxes out 11%. Its
Okay.
average gradient is just under 9%.
Okay, so that's and the percentage 9%. Is it a difficult hill because it's long, or because it's steep, or a combination of the two?
Samola is tough because it's quite long. Okay, so you've got 1.6. Sorry, we're just getting. What are you looking at?
King of the Mountains.
Okay, sorry. The person that we're watching at the moment, also a lady, she's put in the fastest time for the jungle loop. Okay, so when you do the jungle
Earth
loop,
Warrior.
now we don't know her name, unfortunately, but when you do the jungle loop, you get timed against everybody else. And if you get the fastest time with everybody that is doing the jungle loop at that stage, then you get the jersey. Now you'll see next to her name, she's got the little thumbs up emblem, which enables you to give her a ride on. So anybody who follows her or comes into the meet can give her a ride on. It's basically
What is a ride on?
So you can see in her back pocket, she's got all those little Lumo things. And if somebody clicks a ride on, then it comes down like a thumb.
Okay.
And that basically is just to say, well done.
Oh, so a ride on is a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Carry on, you're doing well. It's
Yeah.
it's kudos. You're rocking it.
That's it.
Okay.
And so next to her name is a little emblem which denotes that she's got the fastest time for that lap. Okay, and that's pretty good going. It's pretty good going.
So did
she's
she do a faster lap than Neville and Eugene?
No, lady.
Fastest lady. Okay, 100%.
So she'll get the fastest female time. So she's going faster than Marika Freken. So I'm not sure where she is in the field related to Marika, but yeah, she's going pretty well, eh?
That's so nice to see. So there's a whole bunch of guys out there getting checked this morning.
There are a whole bunch of guys.
I love it because just to let the viewers know, Rob actually trains my wife as well at the moment, and she loves nothing better than to check a few guys out there. My wife is probably the least competitive person on the world, but I know for a fact, if you try and come past her going up Wilson Street, she will get out the saddle and ride. Do not pass it.
I think it's human nature. I think most of us have that competitiveness built into us. And that's what drives us to become better. You know, so long as it doesn't become ugly, I think competitiveness is great.
Who are we watching? Is that Ryan that we're watching on screen there?
You can always tell Ryan by his Lumo shirt.
Ryan's got a Lumo shirt. So his his avatar. Tell us a little bit about the bikes that they're riding. From a little bit of research that I've done, if you, almost like in a gaming sense, if you're doing really well, you get you go to a next level, you get a better bike. Is that, am I correct in saying that, Rob?
Correct, yeah. So you get what's called CP. So for every kilometers that you ride, you get points. And then when you accumulate those points, you start to level up. And as you level up, you start to unlock different wheels, different bicycles, different kit, different sunglasses, different helmets, different gloves, etc.
So the longer you ride, your sponsor, so to speak, as ZWIFT, is going to reward you with a better bike and a better jersey and better shoes. And
correct. And then not only that, just started a new thing fairly recently where you've got drops, where you earn drops. So they're drops of sweat, and then your drops of sweat you can then exchange for. You can actually go and buy in the drop shop different bikes and frames and wheels and that sort of stuff.
So you're rewarded with drops of sweat as opposed to money.
Correct.
Yeah. If this was in real life, I would be a billionaire. Right, Ivan, one of our race director, ladies and gents, he's sitting over there. Ivan van Leer, legend. He's put in a humongous amount of work. He's just trying to tell us something. Ivan, just go for it. Speak, brother.
Earth Warrior, I think that's the leading lady. She's about 2 k's ahead of Marika and.
Okay. So Earth Warrior, the leading lady, ladies and gents, is about 2 k's up the road in front of our local Nauza superstar Marika. I tell you what, at this stage of the race, Emma, can we pull up Eugene? Is it be possible to speak to Eugene again? Because we're quite far into the ride. We've got about 5 k's to go. They're 20. My mother always used to say enunciate, Tony. They're 27.9 k's into the ride. Eugene, can you hear us? Are you with us again?
I can hear you. Barely,
so Eugene, Eugene, if the guys on the YouTube live stream can see you, ladies and gents, you can see he's riding hard. That's quite a high cadence. What is? Are you riding a high cadence, 101 revs per minute? Are you doing a sort of a Chris Froome as opposed to a Jan Ulrich type of rider? What are you doing there?
So ever since I'm cycling, I adopted the high cadence. It seems like it's not working in mountain biking though, unless you go out in the light gear. But for me, easier to recover high cadence, low gears. But obviously, today, Neville's got my number.
Yeah, I myself, when we used to ride a lot, was definitely a long, tall, skinny giraffe, Great Dane lookalike type of riders. You know, the high cadence thing definitely worked for me. I never had any legs to speak of. As we mentioned earlier, I'm still looking for my calves down there, which are apparently part of your lower leg. Eugene, I think according to us, you're still lying in second. Are you chasing Neville? Do you think you can catch him?
With minute 42, unfortunately, I don't think I'll cross that gap. I'll try to hold on to second. But,
so as in real life, a minute 42 might not sound like a lot, but on the bike, that's going to take considerable effort to close. Is that right?
I think the effort very
difficult considering. Hang on.
Very far.
So Rob, what were you going to say?
So Neville is now in the final straight. So he's about 500 meters from the finish. He's finished now completely. This is the end of his last lap. So for Eugene to catch him now would be a superhuman effort. He's literally about 500 meters away. He's pushing out 4.4 watts on the final straight, but realistically, he can pretty much chill it now because he's got it.
So, Eugene, if I may be so bold, I'm not going to talk to you, but I'm going to keep you on the screen and we're going to watch you do your final little sprint because you're a couple of minutes behind Neville, and he's very, very close to the finish of the race. So we'll let you know when he crosses the line. And we want to see your watts go over 500, Eugene. Is that okay? I will buy you a beer.
Neville's just finished.
Okay, Neville's just finished, ladies and gents. Do we have a time for his second lap?
His fastest lap is 12:26.
His fastest lap was 12:26. We'll know a little bit later what his time was on his second lap. So Eugene is in the tunnel. That's fairly close to the finish, is it not?
Yeah, he's very close to the finish. He's a couple of hundred meters or a few hundred meters away. He's just got a ride on, and his fastest time thus far is 12:29. let's have a look, see if he improves on that on his final lap.
Eugene, I see your heart rate is hovering at about 165 beats per minute. See those legs are going around like a, what's that bird, the road runner? Beep, 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 beep. Come on, Eugene. We want, there we go. Okay, let's see if we can get the watts up to 700,
Okay,
800. Ladies and gents, he's giving it horns. Ladies and gents,
That's
if you're watching.
12.7 watts per kilogram. That's brilliant. Excellent.
That's
Well
huge.
done, Eugene.
So never in my wildest, one day when I'm big, I want to have legs like that. Ladies and gents, Eugene gave it horns there. Pushing 800 watts is huge. What was his watts per kilogram? What does that work out at?
12.7 watts.
So that's unheard of. We were talking about 3s and 4s and 5s being huge. So 12 watts per kilogram is monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind that that's not sustainable, it's just a really, really good level to go into a sprint at the end. So for a rider to be able to put in the effort that Eugene did for that period and then to finish on that kind of watts per kilogram is fantastic. Well done.
So Eugene, if the guys at Red Bridge Brewery are listening, one of our local brewers here in Knysna, I reckon I'm going to buy you a beer, because thank you for playing along, and you're a fantastic sport. Thank you for being a good sport. We're going to let you go now. Thanks for joining us at the inaugural virtual Knysna Rotary Cycle Tour, and thanks for letting our viewers out there see what it's like to ride your superstar. Thanks, man. I'm going to let Robert say goodbye as well. Robert, you can now say goodbye.
Eugene, awesome power there, dude. Well done.
Thanks, Eugene. Should we see if we can get Marika back on the screen, Emma? Let's see how she's doing.
Okay, so Marika at the moment is sitting, by the looks of it, in second place amongst the ladies. She's about 2.5 minutes behind the first place lady. Now, it was an interesting choice of Marika to ride a road bike, although this is not a road bike per se, this is a gravel bike. Yeah. Yeah.
There she is, we can see her.
Bike also gives a bigger advantage over a road bike.
Okay, so do they actually have all three options available in ZWIFT? Gravel bike, road bike, mountain bike? What was that, Graham? E-bike. Oh, e-bike. Let's not go there. It's a contentious issue in my world. I know there's a lot of very, very keen e-bike. Ivan, at the tender age of 41 years old, last year, he was 41 again. He got his first e-bike, trying to catch up with his grandmother and her friends at the local tea garden. What's it like on an e-bike, Ivan? He likes winning. Marika, you look like you're working really hard there. How's the body feeling?
Sorry, feeling ready?
How's the body feeling? You look like you're working quite hard.
Not fit.
Ladies and gents, Marika is working her I have to be politically correct, butt off. She's working really hard. I'm going to let Marika go, ladies and gents. We'll let you know how she does and how she finishes. Rob, what she was working very hard. She looked tired.
She was. I mean, when you can,
in the best sense of the word.
When you're struggling to talk and when you're struggling to have a conversation, then you know you're putting in the effort. And I think Marika's putting in good effort. Being the second lady on the road, that's good going, of course. Her watts were around about 200 to 250, which is exceptional. It's very good.
So she's rocking it. She's dishing out some pain. Our lady who's in front. So we're just going to skip to Ryan Habib. Is he in third place?
Yeah, Ryan has now put through the third fastest time on the loop.
Wow.
So Eugene put the fastest time in total. No, correction, sorry, he left. So Ryan is now the third fastest time in total. So Ryan's working really, really hard to kind of get back in.
Would it be possible for us to get Ryan, has Ryan finished? Would it be possible for us to get him up on the screen, Emma? So his time on that loop, third fastest time, was 12 minutes 47 seconds.
Correct, yeah.
That was tough, guys.
He put in the third fastest time.
Well done, Ryan.
Thanks, boys. Yeah. That was hard. I don't know how those oaks make another 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, for the viewers out there, Ryan's a fit, strong. He's by no means a weekend warrior. He's a fit, strong rider. You put in quite a big effort there. How the legs feeling?
Ooh, they are pup, eh? Honestly, don't.
Do we have an overall position for Ryan? We think at this stage you were fourth overall, Ryan. So flying the Knysna flag really high there. You have just got yourself a beer and an oyster, courtesy of Tony Cook and his adventurous sidekick Roberto Hill over here. Well done, Ryan.
Thanks very much, guys.
Good job, dude. Considering you were slow off the mark, you finished really well.
Did he just say slow off the mark? If you would like, I can slap him around a bit after the. I can, I got Billy and Bob over here. I can dish out some punishment for you.
Hey, Tony, you can't beat him up for telling the truth.
Okay, Ryan, thanks so much for your time and for being part of the virtual cycle tour this morning. We really appreciate you letting the whole world watch you on your trainer. Thanks very much. You're a superstar. Have an awesome day.
Thanks,
Well done, Ryan. Good job, dude.
Before we let you go, are you riding tomorrow?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
hoping
so
that
ladies
will
and gents,
give me like a lead out, you know?
we can do that. We can do that. We'd like you to be clean shaven tomorrow as well, if that's possible. You know, the ladies are complaining about the stubble. You know, even I shaved this morning.
No, you look great. You look great, Tony. You as well, Rob. Clean shaven.
Oh, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. That means an awful amount to me, seeing as you have actually taught my son at school. So, you know, that goes a long way. Thank you, Ryan. Have a good day further. Right, what's happening in the race, ladies and gents? Rob, tell us what's going on. What are we looking at?
Okay, so now we got a message through that the leading lady's name is Nix.
Nix.
This is what the chat is apparently saying. Miss Earth Warrior, she's in the lead and seems to be doing very well. I mean, her power has been very, very consistent. She looks like she's on her final lap now, going down into the valley. So,
am I correct in Jay de Villiers? Is that
he's now finishing up?
He's finishing up
across the finish line. I'm not 100% sure where that puts him, but I think he's around about 5th or 6th.
He's pushing out 300 or 400 watts there.
Yeah, nice, good finish.
His heart rate's up at 192. That's huge. I know my maximum heart rate. It means nothing in the real world, but my maximum heart rate flat out was about 200, 201 at my best ever fitness. So if he's pushing 192, that's revving high.
Yeah, no, he's working hard. He's working very hard. That's your 100 millions.
So tell us a little bit about heart rates. If I mean, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie Merckx had an exceptionally low heart rate. So when he was pushing 160 or 165 beats per minute, he was flat out, but his resting heart rate was something ridiculous in the late 30s, 38, 39, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend person to person. Sorry, Tony, I'm just going to interrupt you 2 seconds. N Walker is now coming across the finish line. This is the leading lady.
Ah, okay.
So she is 1 minute and 34 ahead of Miss Earth Warrior. So she's now coming to finish. So this would be the leading lady coming across the finish line. So that puts Marika, our local lady, in 3rd place in the women.
That's really cool to have a local ride up there. So what we're watching, is that a pterodactyl flying under the bridge at the same time in the jungle? That looks like a Hardy doll with slippers on. Miss Walker. Miss N Walker, did you say her first name was Nix? Is that her crossing the finish line? She's now finished our race as well?
Yeah, we think from the chat they're saying that it's Nix Walker, and yeah, she's leading lady. She's the one that's going to come across the finish line, and then Miss Earth Warrior is in 2nd, 1 minute 22 behind her.
So that time that our viewers are looking over there on the screen, 15 minutes and 1 second, is that for 1/10 of a second? Is that her fastest lap, or is that her? That's her fastest lap. So that's also flying. Your fastest lap was, oh, you're lucky, 14:40. You almost got chicked again, Roberto. Again.
So just to put it in perspective, so N Walker, who's now just finished, okay, her fastest lap was 15:21, 21 seconds slower than Miss Earth Warrior's fastest time, but she was more consistent. So her consistent timing across the entire race put her in 1st, whereas the other lady put in a good spout and then just managed to sort of maintain after.
A good spout or a good spurt? Spout, did we used to do that in See, Rob teaches nursery school as well. I'm the T-spot, I'm the spout. This is my handle. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I shouldn't go there.
Okay, so Miss Earth Warrior has now just come across the finish line as 2nd lady.
Did she put in a good spout at the finish there, Robert? Roberto?
No, she put a good spurt in.
A good spurt. Okay. Speaking of, no, let's
she
not go.
She improved her overall time for the lap. She went down to 15 minutes for her fastest lap.
That's going. So in order for her to finish right up there in the field, all 3 laps would have been there or thereabouts within a few seconds. Am I correct?
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Her
just interesting to
consistency
see
was
that,
good.
that Nix Walker actually put in a slower time as her fastest time, but obviously was a little bit more consistent overall.
Rob, on the screen, the ladies and gents will have seen a feather that came above her head on the ZWIFT screen. What does that mean? What does that indicate?
Okay, that's her power up. So all of the riders get what they call power ups within the race. So you, for our purposes, in real racing, you get a couple more, but for our purposes, you get 3 power ups. One is a drafting power up, which looks like a little track. One is an aero power up, which looks like an aero helmet. And one is a climbing power up, which is that feather one that you were talking about now. So basically what they do is, where applicable, they enable those power-ups and gives them an advantage. So the feather power-up will allow them to climb slightly faster for 15 seconds. The drafting power-up allows them to sit behind somebody more easily for 15 seconds. And then the aero helmet obviously allows them to become more aerodynamic for 15 seconds.
So I'm hearing you correctly. So the real world, the ZWIFT, the guys are riding hard, they're drafting uphills, downhills, descents, they're working really hard, but from a gaming point of view, you get rewarded for riding hard?
It's not per se a reward because everybody gets them. It just depends on which one you get and where you use it. So
does it improve your performance at all? Or
yes.
It does?
Yes. So what generally happens in ZWIFT racing, if you have a look at the more sort of professional side of ZWIFT racing, is the guys will try and use their power-ups. Every time you go under a start arch of some sort, you get a power-up. If you already have a power-up and you haven't used it once you've gone underneath the thing, then you don't change it. You keep the one that you've got. So what the guys do is, depending on the race that they're doing, so for instance, a race like this, you know that your finish is on a fairly flat road. So the power-up that you want to use for the finish is the aero power-up. So if you unlock an aero power-up sometime during the race, you hold on to that until the finish, and then if you're doing a sprint finish, you enable your power-up, and it gives you that little bit of an advantage. If the other guy has got an aero power-up as well, obviously your advantage is nullified. But if nobody else has got the aero power-up, you get that advantage for 15 seconds. And if you use it at the correct time, it's an incredibly powerful thing.
So the pros, if they're all riding, if they all do the same races, would they all theoretically have the same sort of power-up?
No, power-ups are completely random.
Okay.
And if you get the power-up, then you can use it at a specific time, and you've got to make sure that it is...
If you want to know what's going on, we Robert is not a Swiss Army wife. He cannot multitask. So his interruption there was he had to read while he was talking. Now, I'm quite good. I can read with one eye. I'm a Swiss Army wife. I can chat, talk, ride. I beg to differ. Oh. So Rob, our organizers in the studio here, our producer, Mr. Shrosby, the Speed King himself. That's Ian over there, ladies and gentlemen. He's a legend. He's wanting us to tell the viewers what is the difference between a meet and a race on ZWIFT. This is a meet, and you get organized races. What is the difference?
Okay, so a meetup, basically anybody can create a meetup. So if you and I want to ride together, I select a route, I create a meetup, and I invite you to my meetup. You accept the invite and we ride together, okay? And as you saw on ZWIFT, the people that were in the meetup had green highlighted names, and that means that's the people that are in the race. You can then put a setting on that takes out all of the other riders, bearing in mind that at the moment there are 4,500 people riding in Watopia. So if we create a meetup, we can then take all of those other people out, and it can just be you and I riding in a meetup.
Okay.
A race is as it would be an organized race, but unfortunately you have to have ZWIFT, the organizers of ZWIFT, to actually take part in that race. So that they have to enable that race, they have to organize it from a software side of things. So we did approach ZWIFT.
So there's a bit of technical behind the scenes IT stuff involved.
So we can't create a race. As normal users, we can't create a race. We have.
Is that why we've created a meetup so we can do our own thing over here?
Correct. Yeah. Unfortunately, during lockdown, ZWIFT had a massive increase in users and a massive increase in riders, and they simply didn't have the resources to be able to take on any more races. So we did approach them to do a race, but they just simply don't have the resources at the moment to do it. So they suggested that we do a meetup, which is exactly what we did.
Okay. So Mr. Shrosby is giggling away in the corner like a little schoolgirl. We're wondering what's happening. Okay. So, ladies and gents, I'm trying to multitask. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Our first meetup is over for the day. Thanks to everyone who joined us. We've got the shorter race starting in about half an hour. So, just a quick thank you to all our organizers and our speed festival guys: Nutritech, Seattle Coffee, Knysna Hollow Country Estate, Knysna On, Absolute Motion, Spur Steak Ranches, Powerade, and Elite Marquees. Thanks to all our sponsors for joining us and making this happen, ladies and gents. Our first ever virtual Knysna Rotary cycle tour. Rob, I've had a ball. Thanks for joining me. Hugely beneficial to me to have somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. I do have to say a huge thanks to everybody in the studio here, ladies and gents. We've got the infamous Emma Kilzo. She's a legend. She's sitting next to me on our left. You guys won't see her, but our technical team, Graham Huddy, he's standing over there in the doorway. He's pouring us coffee and providing us with lots of, that internet stuff, which I know nothing about. Techno peasant. Huge thanks to race director, Ivan the Terrible Funlier. Ladies and gents, these guys have put a huge amount of work in. This didn't happen overnight. We worked quite hard to put this all together. I've had an absolute ball. A huge shout out to all the cyclists and test dummies that helped us prepare over the weeks. Ladies and gents, from myself, Tony Cook and Rob Hill. Roscoe. Ladies and gents, I forgot. The technical, our head streaming, Beardy Mac Beardface, head streaming technician, Roscoe, and his assistant streaming technician, Daniel de Kock. These guys are the ones responsible for making all of this happen, and the interviews and the cameras and the Zoom meets. You guys are absolute legends. Ladies and gents, we will see you at 11 a.m. today for the next race. And tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place for the road ride. Thanks very much, guys. Tomorrow, just a quick one. We've got Nick Clamini, who is a professional rider. I'm sure all the South Africans will know him. He used to ride for Dimension Data. He now rides for NTT Pro Cycling. We're going to have him on the bike. He's an actual Grand Tour rider, Vuelta España, King of the Mountains, Tour of Wales in Great Britain. Good rider. It's going to be nice to interview him. Okay. Do I need to now be quiet?
I think it's about time, yeah.
Ladies and gents, it's a wrap. See you later.
It's okay. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the heart of the garden route in South Africa, to a town whose biggest claim to fame is being the home of a maths and science teacher. This is Knysna. And these forests are some of the oldest trees in the world. They were just seedlings while Genghis Khan was invading China. And under this dense canopy is run a marathon that people speak of in hushed whispers. We've heard that this could be the most beautiful, but one of the most challenging road running races in South Africa. So Charlene and I decided to find out for ourselves.
Now here's a tricky problem.
Ticket. Thank you. Getting a taxi. Getting to the start is not so simple. Because first, we have to catch a taxi. Thanks, bye! Which drove us up the forest road in the dark, dropping us off on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere.
Imagine being scared to walk alone. Scared to speak your mind. And scared to just be. This is what we
Hi guys, this is it.
Okay, bye now.
Thank you. Ek sien al later in die bos.
Okay.
Stop daar so en dan sien julle daar res in die bos ingaan.
And just like that, we were in the Knysna Forest. The only way back now is to run the race. But first, we had to walk in the dark to the start.
You can't see me, but after being dumped by the taxi, we're now in a pitch black forest. And I think I lost Charlene a little while ago already. I am feeling cold and I'm dressed like a hobo. And I'm walking in the Knysna Forest. And I'm ready for a marathon.
We emerged into a clearing into the forest.
It's like Blair Witch Project.
Fires were lit and hot chocolate was served. And there we waited for the start.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hundreds of us, dressed in jerseys, beanies and gloves, set off into the darkness and immediately into our first hill. Definitely the toughest race to get any marathon that I've run. People starting to strip. They're getting hot now.
As we stripped off our dozen layers, we reached the first summit and were greeted by the warmth of the sun. We've just come up the first hill, taken off all my clothes, which apparently they donate to charity, although I see most of them be picked up by the guys on the side of the road. It's actually just gone 4Ks, and now we've got a nice downhill stretch. And that would be the last time that either of us would describe a downhill as nice. We began to run deeper into the forest, and while the trees grew larger, so did the hills.
Oh, hills like real bit.
Now I knew there were going to be hills, but so far they've been a lot steeper than I thought. Still having fun, but I'm a little bit worried. My legs are not going to survive this. Now about 19 Ks in the race. What I'm starting to learn now is that at Knysna, you're either going up or you're going down. There's no flat. At the moment it's just up. While we celebrated the summit of another hill, Knysna's toughest challenge was just around the corner. We were about to descend down the mountainside into the belly of the beast.
Oh my god, it is so massive hill. Hopefully we can go out of this. The hills are done. Although it sounds like we complained the whole way.
Oh fuck, I'm tired.
With all those hills, who was it? As we emerged from under the shadow of the giants in the forest, it was onward to the finish. We came to Knysna to see if this marathon could be South Africa's most beautiful road running race. After the experience of 42 kilometers on these sand roads without 1 meter of flatness, we have decided that if your legs can survive, yes, it just may be best marathon in the country, I think. Thank you, Knysna, for one incredible adventure.
Right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first virtual Rotary cycle tour. This is actually our second race of the day. So welcome everybody. We hope you enjoy watching us and joining us. Just a little bit of formalities from our sponsors, where they would like to welcome you to the virtual Rotary Knysna Cycle Tour, brought to you, ladies and gents, by the Knysna Speed Festival and our event partners who are Nutritech, Seattle Coffee, Knysna Hollow Country Estate, Knysna On, Absolute Motion, Spur Steak Ranches, Powerade, and Elite Marquees. Ladies and gents, my name is Tony Cook, and sitting next to me in the studio is Rob Hill. Morning, Rob. How are we doing?
I'm good, thanks, Tony. How about you?
I'm very well. I'm strong like a lion, in fact. I'm just going to give the guys a little bit of background, and then I can remove my spectacles. So, ladies and gents...
You look very clever like that.
I know, I do look very clever. Hey? Ladies and gents, this weekend would have marked the 33rd running of the Knysna Cycle Tour, but thanks to COVID-19, we've had to arrange our first ever virtual Knysna Cycle Tour, which has actually provided us all with an enormous learning curve and a whole lot of fun. So this is a first time for all of us here, but we've had one race this morning already, so we're getting into it. Ladies and gents, the cycle tour is traditionally the opening event of the Knysna Oyster Festival, which takes place during our South African winter school holidays and consists of both a mountain bike and a road race event. So the first ever Rotary Knysna Cycle Tour took place in 1987, and it was a project of the Knysna Rotary Club aimed at attracting visitors to the picturesque Knysna, basically to stimulate some local economy during the slow, cold winter months. July, August, always been pretty quiet over here. Over the last 32 odd years, that's quite a while, the Knysna Cycle Tour has developed into one of the biggest and most popular events on the national and regional winter cycling calendar, and it attracts anything between 4,000 and 6,000 over riders over both races, MTB and road, to Knysna annually for the event. So we trust that you'll all enjoy this virtual fun experience from your homes. We hope to see you race the event in reality next year in 2021, and hope you enjoy your time with us this morning. Roberto, greetings. How are we this morning for the second time? Outstanding. Ladies and gents, that's a confident man right there. So we've got 6 minutes and 45 seconds odd to the start of our race. This is the shorter race. Our first race this morning was 30 odd Ks with 3 laps, Rob. This race is, if I'm correct, 22 Ks this morning. So the guys will have a 5.7 kilometer lead in, followed by 2 laps of 7.1 Ks, giving us a 22 K overall. Rob, you've ridden this race before. You've done this actual one on Wednesday when we did our tester.
Correct, yeah.
How did it go? How's the route?
Oh, it's wonderful. This is such a nice route. The route takes you up a long climb, then over a Mayan bridge, and then down a descent into a little bit of a flat across the start-finish line. The whole race concept is through an Aztec jungle, and there are some Aztec ruins along the way as well.
Tell me, Rob, the word Mayan, as in jungle, as in Incas and Aztecs.
That's correct, yes.
That's quite a big word for you for a Saturday morning, Robert.
It is early in the morning for that sort of stuff, but I got up and I had my oats.
That's very nice. Ladies and gents, I'm going to give you a tiny little bit of useless information, but it's quite fun. Way back in 1987, the first Oyster Festival had about 250 entrants, and it was actually dreamed up by Mr. Andrew Finn himself and his good friend Pip Lawrence. They were sitting on the Sir Alvain Vincent tugboat outside the Thiessen jetty near the waterfront where jetty tappers used to be, and they were literally just having a chinwag and dreamt up this wonderful thing that is now the Knysna Cycle Tour. It used to finish at Lurie Park. I remember in the early days when we used to ride it, finished at Lurie Park. It had that beautiful single track coming down the Nutsi Ridge, what we call it.
Yeah.
And it finished on George X Drive. And I think Andrew Finn was telling me that the first ever event, he literally raced through town and bought a whole bunch of Cokes for the finish line. And then he had speakers on the roof of his bakkie to announce the winners and what have you. So he said it was absolute chaos, but enormous amounts of fun. And then in about 1995, a Rotary joined up, and the event was growing to such an extent that Pick and Pay then joined as well. And from 1997 to 1998, they actually had such good participation that they split the road bike and the mountain bike events into two. Did you used to ride in both events, or were you a mountain bike or road rider, or a bit of both? You rode both.
Yeah, for sure.
I would never have seen you because you were always behind. So Rob had a very good view of my lycra. I remember having to go to the spa and buy tissues for Stuart Lightly because he was crying at the amount of pain that I was dishing out at the time. Stuart, ladies and gentlemen, I can see him, but you can't see him. He's giving me signals which should not be repeated on live television. So we've got 3 minutes and 37 seconds to go before the if I'm understanding this correctly, what we're seeing on the screen, the guys are in a group. They slipstreaming each other in a virtual race. That's a real life thing. You can slipstream the bike you choose. It makes a difference. Your training, they're actually slipstreaming virtually on screen. Is that right?
Absolutely. So the code writers of ZWIFT have written into the algorithms that you've got the drafting effect. It depending on the size of the group, it's up to 30%. Your bike makes a difference. So like you'll see, there are one or two guys in this race with road bikes. This is a gravel road. So mountain bikes and gravel bikes are going to always be the better choice for this. It's actually the rolling resistance of these bikes is better than a road bike. So the smart choice here would have been a mountain bike. And then, as you said, the draft effect, very definitely real. It does play a part.
So what you're saying is if somebody has mistakenly chosen a road bike for this race because they think virtually it's going to be faster, that's not the case.
Not at all.
ZWIFT actually decides that the mountain bike is the one you need.
Correct, yeah.
And do they have gravel bikes on ZWIFT? Do they have all three options?
They do. I'm not 100% sure in terms of on gravel roads like this whether the mountain bike or the gravel bike is faster. As far as I'm aware, the mountain bikes are still faster, but road bikes are definitely not as fast as the other two on this route.
I know there's a huge surge in e-bikes. Notice we're laughing. E-bikes is potentially a swear word in the cycling industry. If not, if you have a shot, there are lots of e-bike riders out there. I know our race director at the tender age of 742 years at the moment is riding an e-bike. Is that correct, Ivan? Just nod. He's nodding yes. Do they have you can't obviously ride an e-bike on ZWIFT. That's not going to work.
No, not at all. If you do have an e-bike in ZWIFT, it means that you've got an electronic bike on your trainer, and that is known as e-doping.
So the viewers that are new, if they're watching friends and family riding on the screen at the moment, Rob, on the top right, we've got an aerial view of the route. What is that -2 that is up there in the shadowed region? I'm taking it that's a percentage. Is that going up or down?
Correct. That's the percentage gradient that you've got. So the -2 is they're going downhill at the moment. So they're going down into the valley where the start-finish line is. The start-finish line is they go through a caving system with a couple of little bridges in there. That's where the start-finish line is. And then when that number turns to a positive, that means you're going uphill. So that depicts your gradient.
So right now they're on a flat road, basically.
Yeah. So this
Flattish.
downhill is undulating. It's not a consistent downhill, so it will undulate between sort of 0 as it is now. There's 1% gradient, and then it goes back to 0 and down again.
So I think I was looking at the profile earlier. I'm just going to show the videos what we pulled up. That's the profile of the race. And it tells me here on this route that it's a gradual climb of ±3%. Can you tell our viewers what does 3% mean? If anybody's been to Knysna, a lot of these guys will have been entered in the actual race. They may well have ridden the race in the past. They may be wanting to. So I'm assuming a lot of them know Knysna and that first horrendous climb that we call Simola. What is that as a percentage? What does 3% mean in real life terms?
Okay, so 3% is not a big gradient. 3% is just out of what they would call the faux flat. So if you compare it to Simola's average gradient is probably around about 8.5%, 9%. It does kick up to 11% at times. So we know that we've all raced up Simola. We know that Simola is a tough climb. Now, if you had to compare that to the world sort of series in terms of out of category 1 and that, Simola is realistically too short to be categorized as an out of category. But if Simola was, let's say, 10 kilometers, it would be an out of category climb.
I think if you're wanting, if anybody's ridden the Karoo to Coast or one of those races, one of our hugest climbs that we've got here in our area is the Prince Alfred Pass, which is 17 or 18 Ks long. And if I remember correctly, I saw a profile comparison on the Tour de France. It doesn't even come close. It's like less than category 4.
No, the Prince Albert would be about a category 3.
Is that a category 3? A category 3 climb? Okay, so we don't actually have anything in Knysna that's even remotely comparable to Tour de France and those huge alpine climbs.
I mean, if you take, like, for instance, in ZWIFT, they have...
Did you see the sloth?
I did see the sloth.
Did you see the sloth? You saw the sloth. You saw the sloth this morning, ladies. The sloth is cool. Sorry, Rob, carry on.
So, like for instance, in ZWIFT, one of the other routes is a route called Road to Sky, which is an exact duplicate of Alpe d'Huez. Now, Alpe d'Huez, everybody knows about Alpe d'Huez in the cycling world. It's one of the most infamous climbs in the world, and that is an out-of-category climb. It's a 14-kilometer climb, but realistically, the only reason why it's an out-of-category climb is because it has 21 switchbacks, and a lot of those switchbacks go up to 11 and 12%. So that's what makes Alpe d'Huez tough. The climb itself is not that tough.
So that, if I'm remembering correctly, those last couple of corners on the Simola climb, you say they reach about 11%.
The last kick up, and there's a short section in the beginning of Simola that then reach up.
That's quick. Just purely out of interest, one of our sponsors that's involved in the event is Mr. Ian Shrewsbury, who's probably been up there the fastest out of everybody. Ian's sitting in the corner of our studio. Ian, what sort of time are those guys doing on the Simola hill climb in their Jaguars and fast cars? 35 seconds, ladies and gents. And what sort of average speed is that? 193 k's an hour from a standing start, averaging 193 k's an hour. Stuart Lightly, if you are listening, put that in your pipe and smoke it, big guy.
just to give you a comparison, Kevin Evans. Okay, sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself there. We're just about to hit the first lap, so the guys now are in the valley, just going towards the start-finish line. This is the lead of the race at the moment, and they, I think, are just around the corner. They're going to hit the start-finish lap, which means that their first counted lap is going to start now. So whether or not they're going to do this as a hot lap, their attempt to win is going to be still to be seen. So these two guys have just gone under the start-finish arch. These are the two leaders of the race. And, well, we'll see what sort of time that they got. Now, you'll notice that the one of the front guys there is on a road bike. Now, it's going to be quite interesting to see sort of what his times are. He's going to have to put out a higher average power to be able to do the same as what the guys are doing on a mountain bike.
Okay, so is that Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Badenhorst, who currently on our screen, who are first through the tunnel?
Okay, I'm going to interrupt 2 seconds. You see there's a little truck above Mr. Badenhorst's name.
Indeed.
Okay, that's called a power-up. He's got a drafting power-up going, okay? So basically what that did is it enables him to draft the leader in front of him with more effect. It gives him about an 8% benefit for 15 seconds. So he dropped off the wheel a little bit there. He gave his draft power up a go, and then he came back onto the wheel of the rider in front of him.
So Mr. Badenhorst, who we're watching at the moment, has just unlocked an achievement, and he's on a road bike. Am I correct?
Yes.
So he theoretically in this race should be at a little bit of a disadvantage.
Correct. He would have to push slightly more power to stay with the other guys.
Okay, so for our viewers watching, there's a big thumbs up that's just arrived on the screen. What does that mean in the virtual world?
Okay, in ZWIFT, that's called a ride-on. So you'll see in the back pocket, we've got Johanna in the back pocket. He's got like a little shiny bit in his back pocket.
Is that not an energy bar?
No, it's not an energy bar.
A virtual gummy bear.
Well, to be fair, you know, when somebody gives you a ride-on, it is like a little bit of a burst of energy.
Okay.
So, anybody who's watching the people live within the race can give them a ride-on, and it's basically just a thumbs up, you know, well done, you're doing well, etc.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what we were watching there, that was Johan Swanepoel, was it not?
Yes.
He's one of our local boys. Is Johan on the video? Are we able to talk to Johan? Can we pull him up? Is he not watching? No. Okay. So what I have seen is, ladies and gents, I'm going to introduce you to Bruce and Colin Morgan. It's a father and son team that have very kindly offered to join us on Zoom. So we've got a virtual interview within the race. Bruce is the father and Colin is the son. We're going to call up Bruce, who's dad, if he's hearing us at the moment. Bruce, can you hear us? Are you with us?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I'm puffing and panting.
As you should be.
To be honest, I had a little bit of a white lie for the viewers out there. I could see you sweating and taking your glasses off and mopping the brow. So I thought it would be nice for the viewers to see that you're actually working quite hard. Can we pull him up on the screen so I can see his stats as well? Oh, there he is. Okay. So Bruce, you're doing 270 odd watts, 95 revs per minute. Your heart rate's up at 160. You're working quite hard.
Yeah, I'm working really hard actually. This is not a game for the older guys.
You don't look old. You know what the passion is being able to kick your son's butt well into your 90s. I think you've got it. We're going to call up your son a little bit later and abuse the hell out of him for you on your behalf if you'd like.
I'll be happy if he only beats me by 15 minutes.
Okay, we'll put something in writing there and get him to slow down. Bruce, where are you from? Where are you currently based? Where are you riding?
We're in Cape Town, but I have a place at Thiessen, so I was there last week, and try and spend some time there, about 4 months a year, and the rest we're riding Cape Town.
Have you participated in the actual Knysna cycle tour before?
Yeah, I've done one of those original ones where you finished at Lurie Park.
Okay.
I've done most of them, actually. I do a lot of them. I enjoy them.
So you're sporting a few medals. One of the comments in one of the magazines I was reading is, do you want a medal or do you want a T-shirt? Where do you stand? Medal, T-shirt. What works for you? Do you want both?
I've got a rack of medals here, going back 35 years. So medals are good.
I'm with you on the medal. I'm with you on the medal count. I love medals because T-shirts, I wear them to death, and after a year, it's got holes in it and moss, and you look like a scraggy, ruffian. But medals you can keep forever, and it's nice to say, "Oh wow, do you remember this one I rode in?" Yeah. So
to say you've got a bunch of medals going back 35 years is well done. Excellent.
Yeah, they
that's
go back
nice.
to the Ironman in 1981 or whatever. So go back a long time.
You did the Ironman.
I did 3 of them. Those were the paddle Ironmen in those days. We didn't swim.
So we're going to do a virtual. We are not worthy. We are not worthy.
No. We're training now for Wine to Whale. And
awesome.
So I always do that with one of my sons. And that's why we're trying to get fit through winter.
So I'm watching you on TV and I see you 7.5 Ks in. And you've been riding for nearly 16 minutes. You're pushing nearly 200 watts. I'm going to actually let you have a breather and stop talking to me.
Thanks,
and if you don't mind, we'll chat to you again later so the guys and girls, the viewers can see where you are.
All good. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Good man.
Cool.
Okay, Tony, we're gonna go over to one of the ladies in the race now, Julia Leroux. If we can get her up, we can have a chat to her. She's riding at the moment. She's 8.2 Ks in, going quite hard. She's got 166 beats per minute with about 170, 180 watts.
Are we able to talk to Julia on the screen? Can we do an interview? Julia, can you hear us?
Barely above this kicker, but yes.
There she is. Holy smoke! What is that behind you, Julia? What's going on there? You look like you're in space.
Aurora Borealis.
Ladies and gentlemen, some virtual intelligence from my co-commentator on my right-hand side. Robert, what did you say? Aurora Borealis. Tell us, what is that? Let's speak to Julia rather.
Yes, let's rather speak to Julia.
Julia, I'm going to let Robert ask you some pertinent questions so that the guys are falling.
You caught me at a bad time.
But Julia, this is only a hill.
Is this quite a seat? Are you working quite hard at the moment, Julia?
Yeah, I'm definitely over 3 times the 3 watts per kilogram. So yeah, working quite hard for me anyway.
Okay, so Julia, with the greatest of respect, 3 watts per kilogram for anybody is pretty good going. So well done.
So Julia, my money is on you today. I'm expecting a sort of 12-minute, 50-second lap from you. Is that realistically a possibility? That's no pressure. My co-commentating Tubby Bear, trainer, he did about a 14:40 2 days ago. That's flying. He's a big strong one. Please, can you ride faster than him and beat him? Because it'll just make my day.
I'll do my best.
Julia, a quick question before we let you go. Where are you based? Where are you actually cycling at this moment? Where do you live? Where are you based?
Where am I based?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in the Western Cape.
Do you want to narrow that down to a town or a city, or give us like Cape Town, Knysna, Plet, George, Western Cape's quite broad.
We won't stalk you, we promise.
So yeah, I said Durbanville.
Durbanville. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Cape Town itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I can see you getting out of breath. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. If we may, we're going to call on you a little bit later when you're a little bit tired, and we want to show the viewers the sweat pouring off your brow. Yeah, thanks for joining us. We're very grateful.
Cool.
Okay, Ivan, our race director. What's happening at the front there? Who we got? So we've got Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Badenhorst. What are they doing? Rob, tell us, what are we looking at?
Okay, so as you can see, Mr. Jacobs is pushing out about 3.6 watts per kilogram. He's keeping it pretty consistent. Mr. Badenhorst is having to work a little bit harder just behind him because he's on a road bike. And I see just behind them, Johan Swanepoel is only 4 seconds behind them. So he's actually closing in on them, which is looking pretty good.
So Johan's our local boy. We're not able to interview him. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, unfortunately not. Okay, so now Johan's just used his power up. The power up that he's used now is the aero power up. So that gives him an aerodynamic boost for a short period of time. So he's trying to get onto these guys' wheel. Now, bearing in mind, he started this lap a little bit behind them. So if he gets onto their wheel and stays with them, his lap time will be faster than theirs. Then if he can hold onto them for the rest of the time, theoretically, he could win this.
So I see he's pushing out close to 400 watts now. That's quite a big effort, eh? Why is he jumping between 250 and 400? I see his watts are jumping quite a lot. What does that mean in the virtual world?
Well, effectively, his power is being read by a power meter that's built into his smart trainer. And then, of course, the terrain that he's riding on within the virtual world changes as well. Now, when they ride a smart trainer, the program, ZWIFT, gives instruction to the smart trainer how to adjust the power according to the elevation or...
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? So for friends and family who are watching this, what is a smart trainer?
Smart trainer is a trainer that you attach your bicycle to that enables you to push power
because I think you're a smart trainer because you train me and you're very clever. My wife says you're quite smart. Are you a smart trainer, or is this like a trainer on the...
Well, I hope that I'm a smart trainer, but not in the same sense of the word. Hopefully you don't attach a bicycle to me.
There's a challenge for you, David.
Okay, so basically the smart trainer enables the power to be put into the bicycle and for ZWIFT to give it instruction according to the terrain that it's riding. So it increases or decreases the difficulty according to the terrain that you're on.
So what I'm looking at here, Johan caught these guys and he's now part of their group and they're taking turns to lead out the group and taking turns to draft. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So it's exactly as it would be in a real life scenario. They're drafting, they're working together in a let's call it a little echelon. Correct. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just a quick question that I've known. What is that star at the back of their bike? What does that mean? I see it comes and goes. Do you know?
Okay, no, it's just an effect within ZWIFT. It's what they try and do is they try and promote safe riding. So they put a light on the back of your bike. So especially in Europe, but pretty much all over the world, we're looking to obviously try and stay as safe as we can as cyclists. And one of the ways to stay safe is obviously to have a light on your bicycle, back and front. So they just try and promote that. They put a little light on the back of the bike.
Okay, so now I'm looking at the screen. Ivan, our race director, was pointing at the screen. I see we're 13 Ks in. What is it per lap? It's 7.9 Ks per lap, plus their 5.1, so 5.7 lead in. So one lap in total is about 15 Ks. Is that correct, Ivan? 13.7. Okay, 13.7. So we're really close to the end of the first lap, and we will then have a time for you, ladies and gents, as to what these guys are doing. We're watching Mr. Badenhorst and Mr. Swanepoel. Okay, so we're going underground through the bridge. Tell us what's happening, Rob.
So Mr. Jacobs has put a good effort in there. He obviously wants to win this lap. He wants to put this in as his hot laps. Mr. Swanepoel, Johan has just taken in pursuit. He's on his wheel. So Mr. Swanepoel, Johan has the advantage in that he's slipstreaming. He's having to push out less power than Mr. Jacobs because obviously he's slipstreaming, taking that advantage. So now we've seen the road bike come to the fore. That's interesting development. And theoretically, looking at this, Mr. Badenhorst is going to get potentially the fastest time. But remember, Johan Swanepoel came in from behind. So he's actually, in terms of the lap, if you can stay with these guys, going to have the fastest lap. And then if you can stay with them for the rest of the race.
So these guys are actually having a ding-dong battle.
Absolutely.
I see the start-finish arch coming up.
Yeah.
It's an arch within a Mayan temple, so to speak.
Okay, so we've just gone under the start-finish lap. Johan Swanepoel has got a 13:03, and then the other guys are behind with 13:26 and 13:28 respectively. So Johan's in a good position now.
So I see on the screen, Mr. Jacobs, it says there, Silverback BA. What does that mean? Is he a sponsored rider, or is he a gorilla? No offense, Mr. Jacobs. He may be. I don't know. He may be
He may be considerably bigger than you, so be careful.
I can run very fast.
So Silverback is a bicycle brand. I don't know if that's what that refers to. It could well be a sponsor. A lot of the guys put business sponsors or businesses in brackets behind their names in ZWIFT. In that you can't have a specific shirt that denotes who your sponsor is in ZWIFT unless you get that organized through ZWIFT. You obviously just put something behind your name to show that.
So just to give the leaders our first lap. Okay, so Ivan's saying that Johan will just try and basically hold the wheel now and see if he can put in a faster lap. He's done really well.
He doesn't have to put a faster lap. If he can just stay with these guys for this lap,
if he just stays with them, then he's got it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
However, they've now dropped back a bit. So they're 2 seconds behind. So Mr. Jacobs and Johan Swanepoel are 2 seconds behind Mr. Badenhorst. Mr. Badenhorst has obviously cottoned on to the fact that Johan has got the faster lap. So he's now putting in a hot lap. So depending on what the other guys have got in the tank, if Mr. Badenhorst goes hard enough, he could then overtake Johan.
So there's some serious tactics for the guys watching at home, the spectators who've never actually ridden on with ZWIFT. I'm assuming that a lot of the people who are watching may or may not have used ZWIFT, but there's actually some serious tactics going on here, and the guys are riding hard.
Absolutely, they definitely are. Okay, we've got our fourth guy coming across the start-finish line now. Let's have a look, see what time he puts in. Mr. Abrahal. Okay, he's got a number behind his name. I'm not sure what that denotes, 9689.
Maybe he's climbed 9,689 meters in a cumulative altitude gain, which would take him close or just over the top of Everest. Might be ZWIFT power.
Okay. Okay.
That's Mr. Graham Huddy, ladies and gents, our voice of authority here in the studio. We're currently sitting on Leisure Isle on Knysna. I'm looking out the window. The wind is blowing. We are going kite surfing later. It's a beautiful sunny day for all of those of you who should be participating in the actual Knysna cycle tour. It would be one of those non-rainy but very windy days. Pretty cool.
Okay,
Rob.
so Mr. Abrahal put in a 15:09 on the lap. So that at this stage is not good enough to get in the win. So Johan is still first with a 13:03.
13:03 is that a phenomenally fast time, or is it a reasonably fast time?
No, it's a fast time. It's not a phenomenally fast time. I mean, there are 11-minute times that are around this lap, but 13:03 is still a very good time.
So for the viewers out there, we had a longer race, which was 3 laps this morning of about 30 odd Ks. And their lap times were in the 12-minute range. Was that correct? I can't see that.
Okay, so the previous race that we had some times come in of 12 minutes. So the earlier race today, we had a 12:26 was the fastest time. So you can put that into perspective. Okay, Mr. Likely, who's one of our local guys, he's just come across the start-finish line. He's on a Trek Madone, which is a road bike. He's put in a 15:26. So unfortunately, Johan is going to still pip him.
Can we speak to Stuart? As far as I'm aware, we have him on Zoom, and we can have an interview. Can we call him up? Stuart, can you hear us?
I can.
Johan.
And the blood stops going in my ears.
Stuart, you've ridden, I think, virtually every single Knysna cycle tour since its inception. Is that correct?
I've missed 1 or 2 or 3. But I know that the first one I did was a road bike ride, and it started in the main street outside where African Bean is now. We rode to Central and back.
I think
that must have been 87.
I think that's you're giving away your age. You don't look 60, Stuart. How are you? Is it your 58th or 50, your avatar on the ZWIFT has got a little Thomas Magnum moustache there. Did you forget to shave the rest of your face, your chinny chin this morning, or what's the story with your?
It's so I can hide in crowds with a mask on.
So now you do know that the whole world is watching you now, Stuart. You don't look like you're working very hard. There's a few beads of sweat coming off your forehead, but I've seen that same face when we've gone for a beer after a ride. Are you working quite hard? What's the story?
I went hard the first lap, and yeah, I'm a one-hit wonder.
I see you've dropped down to 2.1 watts per kilogram on your bright purple road bike. Is that something you're proud of at this moment in time?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do know him. I can abuse him. We've planted him in there because we wanted, for you guys to see one of the Knysna locals who is capable of accepting abuse. Robert, you've ridden with Stuart. Yes, please. He's doing a little bit for his sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. Did you see that? Stuart, is that a new shirt you're sporting this morning?
That was subtle, Stuart. That was very subtle.
What's better than?
So, Stuart, I know for a fact because you and I went for Stuart and I used to do some mountain bike guiding and what have you, and Stuart and I used to share the guiding and the driving of the backup vehicle, and then I started running. And Stuart, weighing in at almighty 64 kilograms overweight, we went for a run the other day, and he absolutely caned me. Stuart, are you a runner or are you a cyclist? What's the story there?
At the moment, I'm neither. Lockdown has not been kind to me.
You put in the 4th fastest time, so that's not too shabby.
We'll see. So lots of guys behind me can go faster.
Have you ever raced against Stu, Rob?
I have a number of times in a number of races, including the Argos.
So Stu, as far as I know, you've never really seen us from this angle. You've always only ever seen
yes, yeah,
the
that's
rear.
Quite right.
That's quite right.
That's because you're driving the lead vehicle.
I think, being the host, I can just say goodbye and get rid of you if you start to abuse us. So you've got to curtail how much abuse you're going to throw at us. Stu, I see you putting out 177, 176, 175 watts. Your heart rate is, I need you to put in a little bit of effort now. What's your 168, 170 beats per minute? What's that in terms of your percentage
my
of your heart
normal
rate?
max, I've seen 192 recently, but normally like 184 is my max.
Okay, so you are actually working quite hard now. So maybe I should leave you alone and let you carry on riding.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Stu, thanks for joining us. You're a superstar. We hopefully will chat to you again a little bit later. Thanks, Stu.
Okay, so just a little bit of update on how the race is going. We've got Julia, who's just completed her first lap. Julia LaRue, who's on screen at the moment, has got the jersey. So you'll see next to her name, there's a little triangle. Is it possible for us to get Julia on? She's got a little triangle next to her name. That denotes the fact that she, as the lady in the team, she's got the fastest time around the jungle loop. Now, bearing in mind that that's the fastest time, not only of the people in the race, but of everybody that's riding in this route at the moment. So in Watopia, we have 5,200 people riding. How many people have done the actual loop itself, we don't know at this stage, but she's got the fastest time amongst the women for the jungle loop. Julia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well done. That's an excellent time.
Thank you.
So we were talking earlier this morning in our previous race. One of the most phenomenal things that we love these days is a term called being chicked. And that's when your wonderful spouse, partner, or any lady for that matter comes past you. You're feeling rough and tough and like a real hardcore man, and the ladies breeze past you and make you look like you're going backwards. You clearly are doing some checking this morning and putting some pain into the boys. We like to see that. Do you ride regularly, or are you a regular Zwifter?
I've been with particularly in lockdown and a lot of races. So it's sharpened me up a bit.
I see. So, Ivan, have you got Julia's actual time? What was her time on that lap?
As I remember, it was about 15:02.
So, so Julia, just to make you feel better, Roberto over here, his fastest lap last week was 15:10, and he's supposedly a racing snake. So, Robert, you've just been checked. How does it feel?
Okay, Tony, I really want to tell the truth here.
No, you can't.
No, it was an awesome time. Well done. Very, very cool.
Thanks.
Julia, I see you're working quite hard. You're up at 200 odd watts sitting there. You're 16.3 Ks in.
On the time.
Absolutely. We want to make it interesting. This is 4% climb, so you're working quite hard now.
Yeah, I am.
I was gonna ask you about your childhood, but we'll let you ride on. Thanks for joining us again. I hope to catch you just before the end, not the final 100-meter sprint, but just before the end. We're gonna chat to you. So we're gonna go and interview someone else, one of the father-son duo. Thanks for joining us, Julia. Much appreciated.
Okay, Tony, we're going to go over to Colin at the moment. Colin's been riding quite well. He's part of the father-son duo. And let's see who between the father and son, who's winning.
How's it, guys?
How you going?
You caught me at a terrible time as well. Getting to the top of this climb here. Yeah, going well, thanks. This is pretty awesome. Getting a bit nervous with Julia coming up behind me, though. I'm getting checked here, guys.
You are about to be checked, my son. Don't worry, we've all been there. I know, but I've been checked far too often.
Yeah, it's
Colin, you
it's
look
good.
like you look like you're working really hard. Do you and your dad ride together regularly? He's clearly a very experienced rider. He's been riding for a long time. Do you guys ride together?
Yeah, well, he actually got me into it when I was about 13 years old. And since then, I've done multiple Augusts because of him. Last year I did the Cape Epic. A lot of it was because of Dad. So yeah, we've done a lot of riding together. He's got me where I am with it.
Awesome.
I can completely and utterly relate to that. My father also got me into cycling at a very young age. I also did my first 100 odd K ride when I was about 12 years old, 12 years old, which is, I owe a huge amount of thanks to my dad for getting me into cycling. It was awesome. I heard you say you've done the Epic. Rob, have you done the Epic?
Unfortunately not. No, when it was...
Ask me if I've done the Epic, Rob. Have you done the Epic? Oh, yes, funny you should ask that. I too have done the Epic. Twice, in fact.
How do you know if the guy's done the Epic? They'll tell you.
He'll tell you. I was going to say that to your father earlier on. How do you know that someone's done the Ironman? They'll tell you. If you
I did the half Ironman last year. That's... Sorry?
I said, if you put that amount of effort into something that hard, that's bragging rights. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
No,
I see you coming up to the hill now, so we're gonna watch you.
This is the little leg snapper. Let's
give it a little
watch
kick.
me sweat. There we go, boys.
Okay, out the saddle. Let's see. Oh, 500 watts, 700, 800 watts.
Oh, look at him go.
Colin,
1,000 watts. Good
respect.
man.
1,000 watts.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can't expect me to talk much.
Well done, Colin. Good job.
Colin, you're a superstar. We're going to let you catch your breath.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Badenhorst is now going. Jacques Badenhorst is now getting quite close to the end of his second lap. So this is now where his second lap will count, and this is his only chance to catch Johan's time. Johan seems to have dropped out of the race, so he set one good time and hopes, obviously, that's the time that's going to help him to win it. So if Johan can now, Jacques can now win this on this lap, if he can set a faster time than Johan did, then he's got it. So it'll be very interesting to see.
So Captain Silverback at the top there, our fastest lap time, that was Johan, am I correct?
No. Johan is out of the race now. This is now the next time.
Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Jacobs is coming in. Okay, he hasn't set a faster time, so it's still 13:26. Let's see where Mr. Badenhorst comes in.
So can we get Mr. Badenhorst on the big screen? Okay, so he's
Mr. Badenhorst just behind him. And if he can't set a faster time than his 13:20 or 13, I think Johan was what, 13:02. He then Johan will win this.
So the screen that I'm looking at there on the left, the 13:26 and the 13:28, is that their first lap or their fastest lap?
That's their fastest lap, which was their first lap.
Okay, so both these guys, he's just gone under the start-finish banner now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So okay, his time didn't change. So his first lap is his fastest, the 13:28. So that means that Johan wins it. Johan Swanepoel wins it. Unfortunately, he's not in at the moment, but he's now going to fall into third place.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, that was their second lap. Both are winners. So does that mean, from a virtual point of view, are we nearly done? Have we got a potential winner and a potential second place at this moment?
I think we do have a winner, unless somebody else puts a really quick hot lap in behind them, which realistically I don't see. We're now watching Julia again. She's more than likely have won, unless somebody puts in a big lap behind her. She's won the ladies, and then Johan Swanepoel would have won the men's.
Okay, so we had some really fast times. I'm just going to ask our producers here in the studio, what sort of time frame are we looking at for our streaming? To thank our guys. Have we got time for another interview, or are we running low on time for our streaming? Should we get? Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes left. Let's have a look how the ladies do.
Okay, so Julia's just coming down the last hill. She's sitting on Mr. Surgeon's wheel. She's benefiting from the draft. She's actually putting out some really nice power at the moment. She's on 3.1, 3.3 watts per kilogram, and now she's going to overtake him. So checking another guy.
Julia's checking a lot of men out there this morning. She's currently sitting at 160 watts. Is that because I see -2 on the screen? They're a gentle climb. How far away is she from the finish? It's about 22 Ks. So she's what, two or 3 Ks from the finish? Is that correct, Ivan?
3 Ks, yeah.
About 3 Ks in. So we've got 21.7. So somebody else can do the maths, because are you a Swiss Army wife, Robert? Can you multitask?
I do try, but I don't think she's going to beat her first time. Realistically, she doesn't have to. At the moment, she's in the lead for the ladies. She's got the fastest time for the ladies.
And do we know how many ladies there are riding this particular race this morning?
We're not sure at this stage.
Okay, we're not 100% sure. But she is checking a lot of guys.
She is indeed. She's riding beautifully. She really is. She's riding very, very strong. She's going down a hill at the moment. So to still stay at around about 3 watts per kilogram going downhill, that means you're putting in good work.
Here's a potentially silly or not a silly question. The guys are going downhill. There's lots of twists and turns. Does that make any difference on the virtual ride to your watts per kilogram, or
no? The one beautiful
is it just
thing,
downhill and uphill?
Yeah.
So your cornering ability in the virtual world is superb.
It's rocketing. It's actually one of the best things about ZWIFT. You can go into a 90-degree corner at 50 k's an hour and not feel it.
So everybody on ZWIFT is Greg Monod.
Absolutely.
Just a bit of vertigo, said Ivan, our race director, ladies and gents. So our plan, I think, for our viewers and spectators, what we're going to do is we're going to watch until Julia finishes, and then when Julia finishes, we'll have our potential men's and ladies winners, first, second, third, and then we'll thank everybody that needs to be thanked and call it a day on our second race of our inaugural virtual Knysna Cycle Tour. Rob, who are we watching at the moment? Is that Colin?
That is Colin Morgan, yeah. We interviewed him a little bit earlier. He's part of the father-son duo. At the moment, he's sitting in 6th overall.
Can we pull up Dad again? It would be, let's see how Dad's doing. That was Bruce. Bruce is right up there. Can we pull him up? Bruce, can you hear us?
There's Bruce.
Can we pull up Bruce on the screen? Is he able to hear us? When he's able to hear us, I'm getting a thumbs up from Emma. Bruce, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, Bruce, you're looking like you're working hard.
Bruce is clearly putting in a bit of effort over there. How's the body feeling?
No, the body's fine. It's the lungs that are killing me.
I just had a flashback to a song. What's that song? Let me hear your body too. Is that Haka? Sorry, I shouldn't make you laugh when you're on a cloud.
It's good fun, but well done to you guys. This is a great event. Thanks, buds. Thanks for organizing this.
We're very grateful to you for joining us. Thanks for your input and letting the world see you. Thanks very much. You're a superstar. So we're gonna watch one of our finishes. What's happening, guys? Your son is about to finish, Bruce.
I said 15 minutes. I've got to go now.
Go well.
You go for it, Bruce. You'll get there.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Let's see if we can get Colin on the screen. Are we able to get him up?
Okay, Colin's coming under the start finish arch for his last one. Give it a go.
200 meters to go.
Last bit of it.
Finish sprint.
There you go. 4 watts per
400
kilogram,
watts.
5 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram. Good job.
Jeez.
Nicely done, Colin. Good job.
Should we give him a?
That was really awesome, man. Thank you, guys.
Virtual,
Thank you, guys.
Well
That was
done,
awesome,
Colin.
man.
Good job, Colin.
What was Colin's time there? 16:23, 16:52. That's also flying. That's really quick.
That's good going. Okay, Julia's coming in for the end of her last lap now as well. So that then puts her into the finish.
So can I say thanks to Colin and Bruce quickly before we swap over to Julia?
We can. And Colin, you'll be happy to know that you finally, unless she beats you on this lap, you beat her. So you didn't get chipped.
Oh, thank God for that. That's what I was chasing. Thanks, gents.
You
Well
guys
done
are
to you
super
guys. Great
inspiring.
organisation.
Father and son riding. That's awesome. We love it. Thanks, guys. That's amazing. Way to go.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, have a good weekend. See you
And
tomorrow.
We see you on the actual bikes next year, and see you tomorrow for the road ride.
Sure. Thanks.
Good, well done.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Okay, so Julia is now going to be coming under the start-finish arch. She's still on the wheel here, trying to get as much benefit as she can from the wheel. Her heart rate's right up there.
She's
going
very
really well.
174
She's working hard.
beats per minute. That's hard in anybody's world, eh?
Yeah.
What's that? Around about 90%. Doesn't matter who you are.
It does depend on the rider, but I'd say she's up there, sort of 90-95%. I would have thought she's putting in good work. I think she wants to put this in as her hot lap. So she's currently on a 16:52. Let's have a look, see if she can improve on that. There you go.
So she's pushing 160, 170 odd watts. She's on a flat stretch now, going towards the finish line. Is that correct? She's got 700 odd meters, if I understand it correctly.
I think she's just gone under she's just gone under it. So she stays at 16:52. That's her fastest time. But it was nice to see that she did a 16:52 on the first lap and still managed to give it her all for the second lap. That's good going.
Is it possible for us to get Julia on screen so we can just say hi and see how she's feeling? Julia, can you hear us? You in the Aurora Borealis. Where's the Aurora? I can hear Julia. I can't see her. There she is, Julia.
Well done, Julia. That was good going.
So much fun, though.
Excellent.
As hard work always is, eh?
Indeed.
That is a huge smile. Clearly, that was enormously good fun. We just wanted to say well done and thanks so much for joining us and giving your time to everybody that's out there watching.
Yeah, Knysna mountain bike is my favorite mountain bike race out of all the races I do on mountain bike. So thanks, guys, for getting the gears. Even though we can't be there, at least we got a bit of the gears.
Well, you were very much part of the gears, so huge thanks to you for joining us. Roberta, would you like to say goodbye?
I would, indeed. Thank you very much, Julia. We'll see you here next year.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Julia.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Julia.
Cheers.
Right, ladies and gents. So as I understand it, we're going to wrap it up. So I'm going to put my reading glasses on now. Don't laugh, everybody. But
Look intelligent.
from myself and Roberto, a huge thanks, everybody. I'm just going to, just so that I don't forget anybody, we want to thank everybody for participating in our first virtual Knysna Cycle Tour, our second race today. We trust you had enormous fun and enjoyed yourselves. To all our viewers watching the live stream, we hope you enjoyed the broadcast. This virtual Knysna Cycle Tour, ladies and gents, was brought to you by the Knysna Speed Festival and our event partners, who's Nutritech, Seattle Coffee, Rob's smiling, Knysna Hollow Country Estate, Knysna On, Absolute Motion, Spur Steak Ranches, Powerade, and Elite Marquees. And should anybody want to make a donation to Rotary, that will go towards all their community projects. The bank details are listed on their Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Knysna Cycle. So there's a huge crew behind the scenes that have put this all together, ladies and gents. Our technical crew, head streaming Roscoe, the legend, assistant streaming technician, Daniel DeCock. You guys rock stars. Thank you so much. Graham Huddy in the corner over there. We're using his studio here on Leisure Isle. Thanks, Graham, superstar. Huge thanks to Ivan the Terrible. He's on his phone at the moment. A little bit of a giggle there. Ivan Funlier, he's our race director. He put this whole thing together. Ivan, legend. Have a word quickly from Ivan. Can we hear? Speaker? Awe, my bro.
Yeah, awe.
Awe, there we go. And ladies and gents, on my left here, our own superstar, Emma Kilzer, who makes it all happen. Thanks, Emma. You're a superstar. Thanks for all your trouble. And then in the corner, Mr. Ian Shrosbury, ladies and gents, from the Knysna Speed Festival. Thanks, Ian, for joining us. Ladies and gents, lots of behind the scenes work that made this all happen. Huge thanks for everybody, to everybody. Roberto, thank you for joining us and all your expertise. It's been very much appreciated. You want to say goodbye to the viewers?
Thank you, everybody. Tune in tomorrow. We've got the road rides tomorrow, and of course next year Rotary Cycle Tour as normal.
Have we got anyone special joining us tomorrow?
Yes, we've got Mr. Dlamini. He was with the Dimension Data Cycle Team, Pro Tour Cycle Team. Going to be really good to have him on. Some really interesting insights there.
Awesome. So, ladies and gents, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 9 o'clock, 8:45 check-in, 9 o'clock race start for the road ride. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Go well, go Shell. Have a good day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.